Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, first published in 1952, is one of the most important works of 20th century American literature. The novel follows an unnamed black storyteller as he struggles to understand his identity and place within a society that repeatedly refuses to see him as an individual. His journey takes him through the American South and Harlem, exposing different forms of racism, ideology, and social manipulation. Ellison's literary style combines realism, symbolism, satire, surrealism, and elements influenced by jazz and African American oral traditions. The narrator's distinctive first-person voice moves between humor, anger, reflection, and philosophical insight. The novel explores themes of racial identity, invisibility, individuality, power, ideology, belonging, freedom, and the struggle for self-definition. Invisible Man remains important because of its profound examination of what happens when society sees people through stereotypes and political categories rather than recognizing their individual humanity. The story starts with the narrator explaining that he is an invisible man, not because of magic or a physical condition, but because the world refuses to truly see him. As a black man, he moves through a society that looks through him, misunderstands him, or turns him into whatever image it wants him to be. This invisibility gives him a strange kind of protection, but it also fills him with anger and doubt. If no one recognizes him as real, he begins to wonder how he can prove his own existence. He lives underground in a hidden basement room inside a building meant only for white tenants. There, he steals electricity from the monopolated light and power company and fills his space with hundreds of light bulbs. He listens to Louis Armstrong records at high volume, letting the music alter his sense of time and memory. From this underground place, he reflects on the long path that brings him there. The narrator remembers an incident in which he bumps into a white man at night. The man insults him, and the narrator attacks him so violently that he nearly kills him. At the last moment he stops, realizing that the man has never really seen him at all. The next day, the newspaper describes the event as a mugging. To the narrator, the report is absurd and revealing. Even when he acts, the world cannot understand who he is. His story then moves back to his youth in the South. His grandfather, once enslaved, lives outwardly meekly after emancipation, but on his deathbed he shocks the family by calling himself a traitor. He tells them to survive white power by agreeing, smiling, and undermining it from within. These words haunt the storyteller, especially because he himself is praised by white people for being humble and obedient. After graduating high school, the storyteller is invited to deliver a speech about humility and black advancement before the leading white men of his town. Before he can speak, however, he and other black boys are forced into a humiliating battle royal. They are made to look at a naked white woman, blindfolded, ordered to fight one another, and then tricked into grabbing coins from an electrified rug. When the storyteller finally gives his speech, the men barely listen. After he accidentally says social equality instead of social responsibility, they threaten him, and he quickly corrects himself. They reward him with a briefcase containing a scholarship to a black college, and he feels proud, even though the night has been built on degradation. At college, the storyteller has great faith in the institution and its ideals. He admires the founder and hopes to serve the school honorably. During his junior year, he is assigned to drive Mr. Norton, a wealthy white trustee, around the campus. While showing him the surrounding countryside, the storyteller accidentally takes Norton near the old slave quarters, where poor black sharecroppers live. There, Norton insists on speaking with Jim Trueblood, a man rejected by the college because of a deeply troubling sexual incident involving his daughter. Trueblood tells Norton his disturbing story, and Norton listens with horrified fascination. Instead of punishing Trueblood, white people have given him more help and money since the scandal, and Norton himself gives him a large bill. Shaken, Norton asks for whiskey, so the storyteller drives him to the Golden Day, a tavern and brothel. There, a group of mentally disturbed black war veterans causes chaos, and Norton faints. One veteran, who claims to be a doctor and a former college student, speaks sharply to both men. He tells Norton that he treats the storyteller like a symbol, not a person, and tells the storyteller that he is blind because he worships men like Norton. When they return to campus, Dr. Bledsoe, the college president, is furious. He does not care that Norton asked to see these places. He says the storyteller should have known how to protect the college's image. Bledsoe reveals his own philosophy of power. He has learned how to please white trustees while maintaining authority over the school. The storyteller threatens to expose Bledsoe's dishonesty, but Bledsoe stays in control. He sends the storyteller to New York for the summer with sealed recommendation letters, saying he may earn his way back. The storyteller leaves believing he still has a future. On the bus north, the storyteller meets the veteran from the Golden Day again. Bledsoe has arranged to have the man transferred to a psychiatric facility. Before leaving, the veteran urges the storyteller to learn to see beneath appearances and to become his own father. In New York, the storyteller is astonished by Harlem, especially when he sees a black police officer directing white drivers. He rents a room at the men's house and begins delivering Bledsoe's letters to college trustees. No job offers come. The storyteller grows worried as secretaries politely reject him. At last, he delivers the final letter to Mr. Emerson's office, where Emerson's son lets him read it. The truth destroys him. Bledsoe has told the trustees that the storyteller is permanently expelled and should be kept in false hope while remaining far away from the college. The storyteller realizes Bledsoe has used him and lied to him. Emerson's son cannot help him through his father, but he does arrange a job at Liberty Paints. At the paint factory, the storyteller enters another world of racial symbolism and hidden power. Liberty Paints boasts of its famous brilliant white paint, which is made by mixing drops of a dark chemical into a pale base. When the storyteller uses the wrong chemical, the paint turns gray and sticky, and his supervisor explodes with anger. He is then sent to work under Lucius Brockway, an old black engineer who claims he alone knows how to make the company's prized white paint. Brockway is suspicious of the storyteller, especially after the storyteller accidentally walks into a union meeting. Brockway thinks the union wants to replace him, and the two men fight. During the struggle, pressure builds in the boiler room. The storyteller cannot release it in time, and the boiler explodes. He wakes in the factory hospital, where white doctors treat him like an experiment. They use electric shock on him, joke about his body and race, and ask questions about his identity until he realizes he cannot remember his own name. After the treatment, the storyteller is released with compensation money and told to find easier work. Something inside him has changed. He no longer feels the same fear of powerful men like Norton or Bledsoe. He returns to Harlem in a daze and collapses on the street. A kind black woman named Mary takes him in. Mary, who also came from the South, gives him a room and cares for him even when he cannot pay. She expects him to do something meaningful for the black community, and although her hope irritates him, it also awakens something in him. One day, the storyteller buys baked yams from a street vendor and feels a sudden freedom in embracing something Southern that he once would have been ashamed of. Soon after, he sees an elderly black couple being evicted, their belongings thrown into the street. The sight fills him with anger and sympathy. Without planning it, he gives a powerful speech that moves the crowd to carry the couple's possessions back inside. When police arrive, he flees. A white man named Brother Jack follows him and praises his speaking ability. Jack belongs to a political organization called the Brotherhood, which claims to fight for the dispossessed. At first, the storyteller refuses his offer, but when he returns to Mary's home and realizes how much he owes her, he changes his mind. Jack brings him to a hotel meeting, introduces him to Brotherhood members, and offers him a paid position as a public speaker. To join, the storyteller must accept a new name, move into Brotherhood housing, and cut himself off from his past. Before leaving Mary's home, the storyteller finds and breaks a racist coin bank shaped like a grinning black figure. He tries to throw the broken pieces away, but they keep being returned to him until he finally carries them in his briefcase. The object becomes a burden from the past that he cannot easily discard. That night, He speaks at a Brotherhood rally in a former boxing arena. Blinded by the spotlight, he abandons the prepared slogans and speaks from instinct about people being made blind and dispossessed. The crowd loves him, though some Brotherhood leaders criticize his style as too emotional and unscientific. The Brotherhood trains him in its ideology and eventually appoints him chief spokesperson for Harlem. He meets Tod Clifton, a strong black organizer, and learns that their main rival is Raz the Exhorter, a black nationalist who distrusts all cooperation with white-led organizations. The storyteller throws himself into work, organizing rallies and gaining influence, yet he still feels divided between the role the Brotherhood gives him and the private self he cannot fully express. Warnings begin to appear. An anonymous letter tells him not to rise too quickly and reminds him that he is still black in a white world. Brother Tarp, an older black member, gives him a leg iron from his years on a chain gang, a symbol of suffering and resistance. Brother Restrom, however, objects to such symbols and later accuses the storyteller of using the Brotherhood for personal ambition after a magazine requests an interview. Though the storyteller is cleared of the specific charge, the Brotherhood removes him from Harlem during an investigation and sends him downtown to speak on women's rights. After one lecture, a white woman invites him home and seduces him. The encounter leaves him uneasy, especially when her husband appears and seems not to notice him. Soon afterward, the Brotherhood calls him back to Harlem because its influence there has weakened and Tod Clifton has disappeared. The storyteller returns to find that Harlem has changed. Former supporters resent the Brotherhood because jobs and promises have vanished. He realizes that the organization has shifted away from local needs toward larger political plans. When he goes to headquarters, he discovers that leaders are already meeting without him. Hurt and angry, he leaves and then sees something shocking. Tod Clifton selling dancing Sambo dolls on the street. The dolls embody a degrading racist stereotype, and the storyteller feels betrayed. When police confront Clifton, he strikes an officer and the officer shoots him dead. Clifton's death becomes a turning point. The storyteller returns to his office and studies one of the dolls, discovering that it moves by a nearly invisible black string. Without permission from the Brotherhood, he organizes a public funeral march for Clifton. The event draws a huge Harlem crowd and stirs deep anger. The storyteller gives a serious speech that honors Clifton as a man, not merely as a political symbol. He hopes the Brotherhood will use this moment to reconnect with the community. Instead, Brother Jack and the committee attack him for acting independently. Jack says the storyteller was hired to speak, not to think. The Brotherhood considers Clifton a traitor because of the dolls and does not want him turned into a martyr. When the storyteller accuses Jack of acting like a controlling white father, Jack's false eye pops out, revealing a literal image of partial blindness. Jack insists that his sacrifice proves his loyalty, but the storyteller sees more clearly that the Brotherhood values discipline and strategy over human truth. Harlem grows more unstable. Ras, now calling himself Ras the Destroyer, gains strength by accusing the Brotherhood of betraying black people. To avoid being attacked, the storyteller buys dark glasses and a hat, only to discover that people mistake him for a mysterious figure named Reinhardt. As he moves through Harlem, different people identify Reinhardt as a gambler, lover, pimp, and preacher. The storyteller is stunned by Reinhardt's many masks and begins to understand that identity can be fluid, performative, and invisible in plain sight. Brother Hambro then explains the Brotherhood's new policy. Harlem is being sacrificed for broader goals. The storyteller finally decides to fight the organization using his grandfather's advice. He will agree outwardly while deceiving them from within. He submits false reports that Harlem is calming down and invents membership numbers to make the Brotherhood believe its influence remains strong. He also considers using women connected to Brotherhood leaders to learn the group's secrets. He invites Sybil, the neglected wife of a Brotherhood member, to his apartment, hoping she may reveal something useful. But Sybil knows nothing about politics and is interested only in a racist sexual fantasy. Their drunken meeting is interrupted when the storyteller receives an urgent call from Harlem. Violence has erupted. He sends Sybil away and heads uptown. Harlem is in chaos. Looting, fires, and street fighting spread through the neighborhood. The storyteller realizes that the Brotherhood has allowed this disaster to happen, stepping back while Ross's fury helps produce the kind of riot that serves its larger plans. He is pulled into the confusion, helps with a burning building, and risks his life to retrieve his briefcase. In the streets, he encounters Ross dressed like an African chieftain and riding a horse. Raz calls him a traitor and urges the crowd to lynch him. The storyteller tries to warn the crowd that they are destroying their own community and falling into the Brotherhood's trap, but Raz wants him dead, and the storyteller runs. When police stop him and demand to see his briefcase, he flees and falls through an open manhole into a coal cellar. The officers close the cover above him, trapping him underground. In the darkness, the storyteller burns the contents of his briefcase for light. One by one, the objects from his life turn to ash. His high school diploma, Clifton's doll, the Brotherhood name Jack gave him, and the anonymous warning letter. When he sees that the handwriting on Jack's paper and the threatening letter is the same, he understands that the forces guiding and warning him have been connected all along. He dreams of figures like Jack, Bledsoe, Norton, Emerson, and Rass mocking him and stripping away his illusions. When he wakes, he chooses to remain underground. From his hidden room, the storyteller reflects on what his life has taught him. He realizes that people loved him most when he confirmed their false ideas and hated him most when he tried to speak honestly. He thinks again about his grandfather's advice and wonders whether saying yes may not mean submission, but a deeper responsibility to confront the society that denies him. Underground, he learns that he is invisible, but not blind. He also remembers seeing Mr. Norton again on a subway platform. Norton does not recognize him, even when the storyteller reminds him of the Golden Day and claims to be part of his destiny. Norton assumes he is mad, and the storyteller laughs. The moment confirms how little the powerful ever truly saw him. In the end, the storyteller decides that his hibernation cannot last forever. Writing his story has not released all his anger, but it has helped him understand it. He rejects the false identities offered by Bledsoe, Norton, Jack, Rass, and Reinhardt. He does not want their power or their illusions. He wants to emerge knowing that life should be lived, not controlled by someone else's pattern. Even an invisible voice, he concludes, carries social responsibility, and that realization prepares him to come back above ground.